Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. The training lasts about an hour and a half, give or take, usually some load time issues. Feel free to make use of YouTube's chat feature to ask any questions about a feature as I go over them. You'll also notice in the show notes there are several links. Some of them pertain to particular features that show up better on their own videos, and there are a couple others about support guides that you may find useful, or that I may mention specifically in the case of the auto provisioning. So here we have our Dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. To get logged in, we need three pieces of information. The first is your username, which is your email address. This should be in all lowercase letters. Your password, which should have been emailed to you, and this is case sensitive. And then we have the account name, which is typically your organization name, whatever name you use to sign up with your account with us. This is not case sensitive. Now, if you have problems logging in, down here at the bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, there's a forgot your info link. You can click on that. It'll flip the box around. All right, we still need your email address or username. And then in these following two boxes, we need one of the two. We don't need both. Right, so we need either the account name or a phone number that's on the account, and that's one of your customer-facing phone numbers. And then you would click on Reset Password. This will send you an email, and in the body of that email, there'll be a link to get you to your user account page where you can change your password. That's all it's going to let you do. It'll log you back out, take you back here. So you use that new password you created. You have the option here to click on Remember Me, and then you click on Sign In. Now, I'm using an account that I log into on a regular basis, so it's going to take me right to the dashboard page. If it's your first time logging in, the system will actually take you to your user account page. Now, I can always get back to my user account page at any time by clicking on my name. If you look up towards the top of the screen, just to the right of center, right, you see my name there. I click on that. Going to be a big old pop-up. All right, so this takes me to my user account page, and where, for instance, I could change my password. All right, you can also change the date and time display, also your time zone and language display. Now, as a system admin, I can also get over here on the left-hand side to the account level settings, where I can change like whose technical contact is, as well as the time zone and language for everyone, right? How it displays. Additionally, over here on the left, we have add-ons. This is a relatively new feature, and basically this will allow us to, or allow you as system admins, to add on additional features to your Dash account as we roll them out. So currently, the only feature that you can activate via add-ons is text forward, which basically allows you to have a phone number accept inbound texts and then forward them to like an email address. Right? It's not for back and forth communication. But there will be other add-on features coming in the near future. Next up, we have the billing portal. This link will take you to the billing portal right here, in case it's not easy to see. Basically, that'll allow you to see current invoices and update the credit card information, things of that nature. Also, any system admin can click here on Cancel Account and follow the on-screen steps to close your account. Now, when you do it through this process, the account will close by your next billing cycle or the end of your current billing cycle. If you do that, please make sure you've already ported out your numbers before you cancel the account so you can keep them. When you're done on this account page here, click on the close box here at the top right, and you'll be taken here to your dashboard. Now, that first time logging in, you're going to have some pop-up windows come up on the user account page, especially, but also here on the dashboard. It'll also come up when we talk on, or come up on users and groups. It's because those are fairly elementary things you want to get set up on your account. So up here at the top, again, you can click on your name, get to your user account page. For most of us, to the right of your name, you have a D&D toggle, right, for do not disturb. Currently, mine is not on, but if I click on it, I will enable it. And that means I'm not accepting calls, right? So when someone dials my extension number, they go straight to voicemail. Now, if you don't have this, or the reason you may not have this, or a user may not have a D&D toggle is they've been assigned as a member of the call center or the ACD queues, right? The ACD queues and do not disturb do not work well together. So once you're assigned as a member of the queues, you no longer have the D&D toggle here. This little phone icon here to the right, this will open up a new tab and take you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. If you have a web phone device on your user, you can then log into this page. It just uses your Dash login information. And you can use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls. It only works on the desktop versions of those browsers. The mobile versions are not supported. And if your admin users, like the first person who signed up with us, you automatically have a web phone, so you could log in automatically. But any user you create after that, you would have to add a web phone device to additional users. Little chat bubble here. This opens a new tab. It takes you to virtualtext.app or virtualtext.app. It has its own login information, which you will get generated after you've enabled the virtual text feature on your user. If you don't see the virtual text as an option under your features, you need to reach out to our account services team. They need to talk to you about SMS registration. You can also look in the links for the business SMS webinar series that talks about SMS registration, but the account services team needs to talk to you about your use case and whatnot before they enable that feature on your account, and then you can enable it on a per user basis. Little question mark icon. This opens up a chat window, usually at the bottom right of your browser, so you can speak directly with one of our service team members, or support team members, I should say. The three horizontal line icon here, that's the menu icon. This takes you to other Dash features. For the majority of our training, we'll be under the dashboard. That's like 90, 95% of the whole training time. Little arrow here to the right, that's the log out, right? So it logs out of your account. Over here on the left, right, it says VirtualPBX, then we have dashboard, and then these other tabs here. Most of these are core features of Dash. The two exceptions would be auto attendance, which is a plan specific feature, and the virtual text forward, which is an add-on feature. Then in the middle here, I got total users. I have 6, right? So I have 6 people on my account who are making and receiving calls. Most of our plans are based on a per user basis, meaning the more users you have, the higher your bill. So be aware of that as you add users. Total devices, I have 16, and then I have a breakdown here. So first up is soft phone, software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. Right, so this could be the VirtualPBX soft phone app. This could be something like XLike from Counterpath, or you could be using third-party credentials to program a physical device. Right, soft phones, right, is a VoIP phone, right? So voice over internet protocol. So please be aware of that. Web phone, right? That's that Chrome or Firefox device. Again, uses your internet connection to make and receive calls, so it does count as a VoIP device. Next up, we have cell phone. Cell phone or landlines. So you can add a cell phone number or a landline number as a device on your Dash account. So we can essentially send calls to your cell phone. Now, when you do that, please be aware that once you receive a call on your cell phone number, right, you're not gonna be able to transfer that call to anyone else on your Dash account, right? It's an endpoint. So either that person would have to call back in and speak to, enter the extension number of the other person they want to speak to, or you'd have to have your colleague call that customer back. And then here we have SIP phone, right? This is a piece of hardware. It's a physical VoIP phone. So typically connects via the Ethernet cable to get to your router, then out to the internet, and then make and receive calls. But again, it's a phone, right? You pick up, dial, call out. Down here, I have unregistered devices. I have one. That means I've disabled one of my devices here on my dashboard versus actually just removing it. Total numbers, I have 18 phone numbers on my account. Your account includes at least some number of phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. Uh, Typically, it's one main number and then a local number per user is how it normally breaks down to. If you just signed up with us, double check the pricing page to verify that. So for me, or at least on this account, I am probably paying an overage on a per number basis. Down here, I have two breakdowns. The first is assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned number means I'm using it, right? Someone can dial that one of these numbers and expect to speak to someone or leave a voicemail, join a conference, or be sending a fax, right? Spare number counts towards my allotment, so I'm being billed for them, but I'm not currently using it. Whether that's because I'm about to expand to a new market and that physical location isn't open yet, but I wanted the number so I can start producing marketing materials, or it's a number I just took out of service because, let's say, a promotion just ended, right? Now, we're getting towards Thanksgiving here in the US, so it's more likely you might be about to put a number into service for a special promotion, right, for Black Friday or Cyber Monday. Next up, I have USD, DID, and US toll-free. US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, right? An 800 number, 888 all the way down to 833 currently. US DID just means a US local number, right? So if you have a number in Elmira, New York, counts as a US DID, just as if you had one in Manhattan Beach, California. You can have international numbers on your account. If you'd like to add one, you want to email our porting team, and that's porting at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. They'll let you know if that's possible and or if there's any additional requirements. Those requirements come from the country in question. Conference bridges, I have 3. That means I've enabled the conference feature on 3 of my users, right? So I have 3 people who can host or moderate a conference. Oops. Right. Up here towards the top right, I have my main number box. Currently, it looks like I have 5 main numbers on my account. So these numbers all behave the same way, right? They're going to the same area of my system. They're all going to play the same main greeting, right? You can obviously have multiple main numbers if you want. Then I've got the conference number. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want, but they're all going to the same set of conference rooms. This is the number everyone dials to join the conference. That includes your staff. Right? You'll be prompted to enter the conference room number and PIN number. The fax box number, you can have one main fax box number, and this is your inbound fax number. This also allows you to edit your main fax box to allow for outbound faxing if you so choose. Then we've got the company directory. You got 2 download links. One is CSV, the other is softphone. CSV, just a spreadsheet file. It's going to have your staff members' names, their email addresses, their extension numbers, and their primary devices. The softphone link is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop softphone application. So if you're using our softphone app on your Mac or Windows PC, you can download this file and then upload it to your VirtualPBX softphone on your computer. This will allow you to see the status of the other VirtualPBX softphones on your account. Right, so I could see that my colleague Mike is on a call on his softphone, so I know not to call him at this time. Now, if my colleague Mike has multiple devices, right, let's say he's got a Yealink phone as well as the VirtualPBX softphone, I'm not going to be able to tell if he's on the call with his Yealink phone from my softphone, right? That's what this, basically the softphone link lets me look at my softphone and see who's available and not within the contact list there. VirtualPBX Store, this opens up a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you can order things like a VoIP phone, among other devices. And then we have the account realm. This is unique to each account and used for a couple things. One, it's one of the 3 pieces of information you would need to program or provision a third-party soft phone. The other thing is used for sending a fax out. So once you have your fax box set up, if you want to send a fax out, it's via email, right? So you create an email like you normally do. In the to field, you put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number you're faxing to, put the little @ symbol, and then put in your account realm. Then you just need to attach a PDF or a TIFF file and click send. Right? The system looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. It doesn't look at the subject line. It does not look at the body. Right? Anything you type there does not get sent as part of that fax. So if you want a fax cover sheet, you actually need to include that as part of your PDF, and only one attachment per email. If you have multiple, only one of them would get sent out. All right, we're going to go back up here towards the top where, right, I'm on my dashboard, VPBX New Hire Sandbox, and then to the right here, I have this caller ID box. I can click on that. It opens it up. Now, this pull down up here at the top, which my software doesn't allow me to show, it lets you select any of your main numbers on your account. This number becomes your default for, like, say, your VoIP phones. When they make an outbound call, by default, they're going to use this number that you select here as their caller ID. Here, you've got company caller ID name. This is an optional feature. In the box to the right, you can enter up to 15 characters. It counts the spaces as part of the 15. So please be aware of that. This is what we then associate with your number. After you click Save Changes at the bottom, this gets transmitted to other carriers who support this feature. We'll come back. We'll circle back to that in a little bit. Then we got the company emergency information, or E911. It wants a North American address. For our Canadian customers, in the zip code field, that's where you would put your postal code. And in the state section here, that is where you would put your 2-character province abbreviation. Now, if you do make use of the company caller ID name field here, right, as I mentioned, we transmit this to the other carriers who support this feature. It takes them up to 3 business days to update their servers. Right? We can't control that. Now, when you make an outbound call, no matter how you make a call, right, whether that's on your cell phone or with a VoIP phone, and this is general, right, your call goes through several carriers before it reaches its destination, right? So like from your cell phone, if you're on an AT&T cell phone and you call Verizon number, it's not just going from AT&T straight to Verizon. There's usually other carriers in between there. Same thing happens with VoIP phones. If any of those carriers in between you and who you're reaching out to doesn't support the CNAME feature, this name information does not get transmitted, right? They'll get the number, but not the name. That receiving carrier, whoever you're calling, right, they have final say about the information that shows up on the phones on their network. If in some cases, everything goes through, right? So the number we transmit and the name goes all the way through, everybody's happy. The most common thing we see, though, is that the number goes through, but no name, right? And this is especially true when you're calling a cell phone. Basically, the mobile carriers, at least the ones I've looked into, by default, they don't send the name information through at all. They just only send the number. Like my carrier, they want to charge me about $10 a month in order to have the name information show up on every call that comes to my cell phone. I personally don't want to pay that, so I don't, and I just deal with it. And that's probably the case for many people, right? They just don't want to pay extra to their cell phone providers. The other thing that can come up is, we send the name and the number, and the receiving carrier doesn't send the name through, right? But they look up the number on their own database and put that name instead. We can try to update additional databases on our side to see if that will help, but we can't guarantee that. So something to be aware of. This hold music button. So on your Dash account, you can have customized hold music. Now, hold music for this is defined as after a call has reached into your system, right? Gone to one of your staff members, they've picked up the call on their VoIP phone, and then they press hold on their VoIP phone. That's when this media file will play, but you can upload your own files, right? The system will play back .wav and .mp3 files up to 1 megabyte in size. So just click on Browse to find the file on your device, select it, and then click this up arrow icon. It will upload, and then click on Save Changes. Because of that 1 megabyte file size limit, you might want to make sure that the file you upload is in mono, not in stereo. That gives you a longer duration file. All right, hours is actually part of main number, but we don't want to set up the main number until we have everything set up on the account. So down here, let's scroll down to the users, like little person sitting at the desk. This is our users page, shows all the users on the account. The people with the blue suit icon, these are your system admins, right? So they can do all the stuff we're talking about today. The gray person icon here is a standard user. They have very limited access. Basically, they can check their voicemail and set up call forwarding. If you assign them to queues, they can get to the queues, right? But they're not going to be able to do most of the other things that we're talking about today. Up here at the top, that's where you add a new user. And you basically fill out the form, right? So first name, last name. Right? Email address used for login. This is unique to each user, right? So you don't reuse an email address for multiple staff. This is how the system communicates with your staff, right? This is like for password reset emails or voicemail notifications, they go to this email address by default. Password, right? Create a password for the user. And then the main extension number. You can enter in what you want to use for the main extension number. For new signups, right, you start off with extension 1000, and then each additional extension, they'll recommend like 1001, 1002, etc. But you can enter in whatever you want, right? You can make it 5002 if you want it. Right. Here you've got automatically the system will create a voicemail box for the user. That voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user, right? So if you create a user and added a VoIP phone right to them, they could pick up their VoIP phone that, once it's registered, hit *98 and click send. That will log them directly into the voicemail box you created for the user at the start. The system will then walk them through creating a voicemail box PIN number, as well as then creating their voicemail box greeting. Right? They can get into the personal options so they can record their name with their voicemail box, which is what the system uses for the PBX directory. But then they're basically set up. Here's your option to include the user in the user directory. You can always change this later. This option here is to send emails to an alternate address, right? So you would put a check mark here, and then you would enter a different email address here, right? So if you want like the voicemail notifications or password resets to go to a different email address than the one you specified for login, then you would check this box and put in a different email address here. And then lastly, send credentials to the user. I do recommend checking this. Right. Click on create user. The user gets created, and then they get an email saying, hey, welcome to VirtualPBX Dash. Here's your login information. Right? Or you use create user and add another to basically send that email and then refresh this box to add a second person. All right, once a user is created, you can click on their name, right? So you can change their name if you need to. Here's your option to change their credentials. If you click on this, right? So you can change their email address or change their password. You also have the option here to have the system send them the password reset email so they can change the password themselves. Here, you can change their voicemail box PIN number. Just enter 4 digits and save changes. Here's your option to send emails to an alternate address. And here's your option to include the user in the user directory. This pull down allows, over here by the person icon here, allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin back down to a user. Little time icon here. This allows you to change the time zone for the user, right? So that their voicemail timestamps are the correct time for them. The little flag icon here allows you to change the display language for the user. You can change it to English, French, German, or Russian. The ringing timeout By default is 20 seconds, which is plenty of time to send calls to a VoIP phone or landline. If you have a user who's only using a cell phone, you might want to increase this to 30 seconds or even as much as 45, right? In terms of how telecom works, right? Sending a call to a landline, the landline telecom knows exactly where the phone is, so they send the call straight through. Whereas when a call reaches out to a cell phone, the cell phone telecom has to find the cell phone first and then sends a call through, right? It's that delay. That's why you would have to want a longer call duration here. Extension number box, users can have multiple extensions if you want to. You would just click on add extension and enter in a secondary extension number and then save changes. Users can have their own phone numbers if you want them to. You have the option here for buy new or add from spare. So add from spare is how you would use a spare number or how you would reuse a number that was previously assigned somewhere, right? Buy numbers is how you add new numbers to the account. Right, so add from spare will show you your available spare numbers. You would just click on the box in front of the number, click on add selected, and then save changes. By numbers, you have to choose local or toll free, right? Toll free, choose a toll free prefix, click on search, and you should see a list of numbers that are currently available. And you can scroll down to see more numbers. Click add to add the number to your cart. All right, so yes, I have one here. Shows the number. I can trash it if I decide I don't want it. I can add multiple at this time. Now, just by adding it to the cart, I haven't done anything, right? The number is not reserved or anything of that nature. But once I click by numbers, now I'm actually grabbing that number and putting it to my account. Right, so if I walked away before clicking by numbers, it's possible someone else could have taken that number before I come back and finish clicking buy. Right, and again, I would click on save changes. Local, you need to know the area code you want a number in. Right, so we can do 310 in Southern California. Any area code, you can get this message. Right, it's just saying that there's no available or no readily available phone numbers in that area code. If you get this message, you're going to want to use your favorite search engine and do a search for, in this case, area code 310 overlay. Right, for big metropolitan areas, actually even mid-sized metropolitan areas, you're probably going to have overlay area codes. And that's just 2 or more area codes that have the same geographic boundaries. Right, in a case like Los Angeles, where not only do you have overlays, you probably have several nearby area codes that you could also look for. But again, you see that there's available area codes. You click add next to the one you want, and then click on by numbers. And then you would click on save changes. Now, if you don't click on save changes, right, so let's say I just click on users here, refresh the page, right? So Dante doesn't have any numbers. So those numbers I just bought, they just become my spare numbers. Now, any time you add a phone number directly to a user, right, or a group for that matter, right, the number is available 24/7. There's no hours of operation or holidays. And that's something to be aware of if you're having adding personal cell phone numbers to a user, right? Because they can get rung at any time. All right, the device box, this is where you would add devices to a user. First up is a SIP phone, right? This is that physical device. You have these manufacturers to choose from, right? Some have a lot of models, some have like a dozen, right? So no matter what, find the make and model of the phone you want to work with, give it a name, right? Like Bob's phone or warehouse phone, something of that nature. And then the MAC address, that's unique to each device. Usually sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone's plugged in under its basic settings, or either status or basic settings, it normally comes up here. So you would enter in that data here in the MAC address, and then you would click on Create Device, and then Save Changes. Now, you would come back here to Device, and then click on the device name, go to Advanced, and then select Miscellaneous. And where it says Allow Reprovision, click on Unlock. Click on Save Changes here, and then Save Changes here. So now you're telling our system, hey, I want to provision this phone. At this point, you need to log into the phone's web user interface, which is normally getting the IP address of the phone, entering that in a browser on a computer that's on that same network. You log into the phone's user interface and enter in a URL, right? Basically tell the phone, hey, go to this page, get your config file, at which point it's going to reboot a couple of times, and then it would show up as a green device on your account, meaning it's ready, it's registered, and you should be able to make and receive calls from it. For the specifics of that, in the show notes, you want to look at the auto provisioning phones document. That's going to have screenshots of the various manufacturers, as well as a proper syntax for that URL, and in some cases, settings that you might want to check on. All right, next up we have cell phone, right? Cell phone and landline are the same. First, you give it a name, right? Bob's cell phone, what have you. In the number field, you put +1 area coded number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Any place where you add a phone number, right? No spaces, no dashes, no parentheses, just +1 area coded number. And then you click on Create Device, and then you click on Save Changes. All right, so should look like so. Now, if we go to the advanced options, this currently, right, so the 2 check marks on the bottom 2, this is the default settings for a new cell phone or landline. What happens, right? So call comes in and then rings to my cell phone, right? My cell phone rings, I pick up. The first thing I hear is, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. When I press 1, I'm telling the system, yes, I'm here, and yes, I want to take this call, right? It then connects the inbound caller to me. We begin speaking. Right, so that's fine if there's someone there, like an actual person who can press 1. Right, but let's say you've also contracted out with an automated answering service. Right, so they give you a phone number, say, hey, just send calls to this phone number, and then our answering service will handle calls for you. In that case, right, there's probably not someone there who's pressing 1. It's probably going to a computer first, or an auto attendant, right? So it's getting a greeting file. In that situation, you want to come here to the advanced options here for your cell phone or landline device. And here where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail, you want to put a check mark in front of it. So now when we send a call to this number, right, there's no message about this is a forwarded call or pressing 1. Instead, when we hear that pickup tone from the answering service, we connect the call. Right, so then the answering service can handle the call and everyone's happy. Now, if you check this on your personal cell phone, what can happen is your cell phone voicemail can pick up, right? That's still a pickup tone. So we send the caller to your personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that, some people don't. The other thing that sometimes comes up is this one, keep original caller ID. So customer Mary calls into the system, reaches my cell phone. On my cell phone's display, I see customer Mary's phone number. Now, it's possible that I'm getting enough robodialers, telemarketers, whatever, that if I don't recognize the number, I let it go to voicemail. So then I may miss an opportunity, right, to make a sale. So what I could do is uncheck this option here. So now when customer Mary calls into my system and reaches my cell phone, I see my main number show up. What do I mean by that? Let's go back to the dashboard here. Right, so the number I selected up here, that's the phone number I should see on my cell phone's display. Now, hopefully I recognize my main company number, and at which point it's probably worthwhile for me to at least answer the call to see if it is worthwhile, right? Versus some random number that I don't know. All right, next up, we have soft phone, right? So software application. All right, so whenever you add a soft phone or web phone to the account, you're going to get this message here about wireless VoIP technology. Please read it at least once. I'll go ahead and click close here. And here you have a big box. Now, the system will default this to that you're going to use a third-party soft phone, right? Meaning you're using someone else's application. That's fine. If you want to do that, that's up to you. If that's the case, right, you need to give it a name. The SIP password or the SIP username, you want to copy this and paste it into a document or the actual application you're going to use or where it needs it to be. Right? It's one of the pieces of information you need to program the device. In the SIP password box here, you want to click on it to reveal that SIP password and then copy and paste that. Right? Please don't change it. And then here in the realm, you want to copy and paste that. Those are the three pieces of information you would need to program or provision a third-party soft phone. Now, there are literally probably thousands of soft phone apps out there. We don't have guides for all of them. We have a couple guides for like Xlite and a couple others on our support pages, so you can look at those to see if they can help you. Now, if you want to use the VirtualPBX soft phone app, then you're on the right spot. Because if you look down here below where it says View Configuration Guide, there's a toggle. It says Use Third-Party Application, right? Well, we can click on this. And now it says Use VirtualPBX Application. You still need to give it a name, but then you click on Create Device, and then click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, right, the user gets an email saying that their VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. It's going to have their login information for the soft phone app as well as download links. Right? This is the only place you can add a VirtualPBX soft phone. Right? If you go to the Devices tab that you see on the left and try to add a soft phone there, you can only add a third-party soft phone there. And that's because the system associates the email address to the soft phone, right? And that needs to be associated with the user at that point. I'll go down here to web phone again. We get this warning message. And then here you give it a name, click on create device, and then save changes, right? The web phone uses the user's dash login information. So it makes sense just to assign it directly or add it directly to the user instead of adding it on the devices tab. All right, next up we have user features. First up is caller ID number. So this is if you want a user to have their own outbound caller ID, right? So they don't use the main number as default, but they use their own number. All right, so you would click up here to enable, and then you select the number that you've assigned to the user, and then click on Save Changes. Once you do that, whenever they make an outbound call from their VoIP phone, the number the number that's on the user becomes their outbound caller ID. Right. So for instance, your salespeople may want that. So that way, when they make a cold call, right, the person calls them back, goes directly to them versus going through the general menu. Voicemail box. This is the default settings for a voicemail box. Right. So you've got attached messages to email, which is reflected here again. Voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they are full and cannot hold any more. Now, by default, there's 3 ways to listen to your messages, but only 2 ways to manage your messages. Right, the first way to listen to it is via this attachment to your email, right? You get a voicemail. When a voicemail gets left on your user, you get an email saying, and the body of the email has the date, the time, the phone numbers involved, the voicemail box number, and the MP3 attachment, right? So you can listen to it and then react. But that doesn't actually remove it from your voicemail box. From any VoIP phone, right, that's registered on the account, you can hit *98, and that logs you directly into the user's voicemail box. Or you can do *97 to then choose the voicemail box you want to log into, and you just need to know the voicemail box number and the PIN number. And when you listen over the phone, you'll also have the option to delete a message, right? You can also manage your voicemail box via the user portal, which we'll cover basically at the very end of the training. Now, you also have the option here to delete message after notification. So if you don't want a voicemail box to ever get full, right, then you could do this where put a check mark here. So after we send out that email notification, right, that has the MP3 attachment, then the system will delete that voicemail from the voicemail box. Now, that means the voicemail box doesn't get full, but also it means that the only way to check your voicemails is via email. So if there's ever a disruption with your email service, you may lose any voicemail messages. All right, follow me. This is for users with multiple devices. This allows you as an admin to determine how those calls are offered to them or how they're offered to their various devices. So click here to enable. And then on the right here, you have the option, you have everything set up as do not ring initially. So first you need to determine which devices are going to be part of their ringing, right? By unchecking them. And then you've got these little green bars. You just click and drag to the right to give them a ring time. Now, up here along the top, right, these are timestamps. It defaults 2 minutes, right? You can change that to something else, like 60 seconds, for example. You can also click distribute. So then it will equalize out how long the call is offered between the two devices. I can still adjust it if I want to, right, to give more overlap, for instance. Or I can click and drag and change the order and click distribute again. All right, now if my user tells me, hey, I'm going to be away from my desk, you should probably include my cell phone as part of my call mix, right? Then you would just come in here and do something like that. Now, if I leave this disabled, right, and this user has 3 devices, when a call comes into this user, all 3 devices ring at the same time, right, until the user picks up. Right, so you don't, and whereas with Follow Me, you can determine what devices ring. If you add this user to a group, which we'll be getting to next, calls from the group ignore the Follow Me settings, right? So like this user, all 3 of their devices would ring when calls come in from their group. All right, fax box, you can choose to have a user have their own fax box. When you do so, you have the option here to use a spare number, buy a new number, or sign a new extension. I recommend making use of a phone number. That gives the user the most versatility, right? So that basically, so they can send and receive faxes from basically everybody. If you choose an extension number, you put some limits on the user. First and foremost, they're not going to ever be able to send a fax out because the system will use that new extension number as the outbound caller ID when they try to send a fax out, which will cause it to fail. Additionally, you potentially limit who can send the person a fax because like electronic fax services may not allow for adding an extension number. Even for analog fax users, right, you'd have to make sure the person knows how to send faxes to an extension number. Conference bridge. Up here is where you would enable the user to host or moderate a conference, and then you enter in a PIN number and then save changes. The user can change the PIN number for their conference bridge under the user portal. They'll actually have 2 PIN numbers, one for the moderator and then one for the participants. The enable video conferencing, this is basically for in-house use, right? So all the Dash users can make use of video conferencing, but anyone outside would not be able to. Call forwarding, you have off, on, or failover mode. Off or on, your users can turn call forwarding off or on their own, either directly from their VoIP phone using a feature code or via the user portal. Failover mode is something a system admin has to set up for them. This is for VoIP phone users specifically. And it's for when the VoIP phone becomes unregistered for whatever reason, right? Like the dog runs by and rips out the Ethernet cable from the VoIP phone, right? So then the phone becomes unregistered at that time. Call comes in right at that moment. The system with failover mode enabled will automatically forward the call to this phone number you designated, right? +1 area code and number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. So the user still gets the call, right? Probably to their cell phone. And then until they can get their VoIP phone back online. And once their VoIP phone becomes registered, then calls would route normally. Customized call recording. When you first enable it, it looks like this, right? And this is if you want to record calls that are coming in or out of your system. You have to tell the system what kind of calls you want to record, right? So inbound internal, right? It's a coworker call, right? So Dante called me. I can choose to record that, or I can choose not to. Inbound external, customer Mary called me. Outbound internal, I called coworker Dante, right? And then outbound external, I called customer Mary. So we sometimes see this, right? The external calls or all calls. And then save changes. Your account includes some level of data storage as part of your monthly plan price. Please check the pricing page if you just signed up with this to see what you have. If you have heavy call volume and you want to record every call, you want to talk to our account service team about enabling AWS integration, right? That will require that you have an Amazon Web Services account, so then you can store your call recordings with Amazon Web Services, which at high volumes especially is much more cost effective. We've also seen that, I guess, for insurance agents, like for Medicare, they're getting required to record calls and store them for 10 years. And in that instance, we also do strongly recommend you make use of AWS and that AWS integration. Music on hold. You can choose to have users have their own hold music if you want to. Right? You would just click to enable, upload a .wav or .mp3 file recorded up to 1 megabyte in size. Find the file by clicking browse, click the up arrow icon. Once it finishes uploading, click on save changes. So for instance, like you want your salespeople to have their hold music talk about special promotions, whereas your marketing staff or your tech support staff may just have, hey, go visit our website, kind of. Do not disturb. Enable this to have a user not receive calls, right? Someone had to leave the office for an emergency. You can say, hey, boom, let's put them so calls are going to voicemail. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature. Basically, this is for a shared office environment or hybrid scheduling, right, where people don't have a set desk that they come to every day. You enter a hot desk ID. So if like use 4-digit extensions, I would say just make it their extension number. You can choose if you want them to require a PIN number to log in. What happens, right? I come into the office on Tuesday. I sit down at desk number 5. I pick up the VoIP phone there. I hit *11. That turns on hot desking on that phone. It asks me for my hot desk ID and then tells me calls will now be sent to this device. Right? So the rest of my workday, anyone enters my extension number, it will ring to the phone I'm sitting at. End of the workday, I pick up the phone, I hit *12, and there's my hot desk ID. It turns off hot desk. Next time I come into the office, whatever day of the week that is, right? Someone's at desk number 5. I'm like, hey, good morning. I sit down at desk number 2, pick up the phone, *11, hot desk ID, and now I'm getting calls at that desk. All right, groups, sometimes referred to as hunt groups or ring groups, right? Departments, right? Group of people answering calls about a similar topic. Up here at the top, you click on add group. You need to give it a name. You need to give it an extension number. Then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group, and you would click on create group. Once a group is created, you can always click on its name, right? So you can change the name at any time. You also have this group call attempts. There are little arrows here to the far right where you can increase or decrease this number. And this is how many times the system will offer the inbound call to the members of the group. Here's your option to delete a group, and if you made any changes, click on Save Changes. To the right, we have the Members box. When you click on it, it shows who you've assigned to this group and how you're offering calls to them. So in this setup, I am doing what's called blast ringing or ring all, right? So I'm offering the call to all 3 staff members. Whoever picks up the call first gets it. Now, in this situation, one thing to be aware of is you get 2 people, or even all 3 of them, right, pick up the phone at the same time to answer the call. Well, obviously you don't want 3 staff members answering one call, right, all being tied up on the same call. So the system decides who gets the call, right? What can happen then is, let's say David gets the call, Taylor and Dante get that error, right? They say thank you for calling, and then go hello, hello, because there's no one there because David's already helping the customer. Now, in an office environment, the other 2 could hear that David took the call, and they, oh, okay, no big deal, right? In a remote working situation, it's possible that Taylor and Dante may think, oh wait, there's something wrong, right? So they, unless you have Slack and they can confirm, oh no, David got it, or a system admin can check the call logs to see who got it, potentially. Now down here, you can add additional staff members to the group. Along the top here, these are timestamps, right? It defaults to 2 minutes. You can change that if you want. You also have this distribute option, right? So now I'm ringing always calls that always come in, always ring in this order, right? So they offer to David first, then to Taylor, then to Dante. Now, if a call comes in, right, David answers, and then a second call comes in, the system doesn't skip David, right? It would still offer the call to him for, 40 seconds before it rolls over to Taylor, right? So then David and Taylor on calls, the third call comes in. Again, doesn't skip David or Taylor, so it offers them to 40 seconds, then through 80 before it gets to Dante. So you might want to do something like this so that there's less hold time for those later callers. If it's a problem, then you may want to talk to our service team about queues, right? The ACD queues or the call center is an advanced form of groups, right? So you have different routing options and calls in a queue, right? If I'm on a queue call, right, the queue knows, oh, he's on a call. And so if a second call comes in, it doesn't even try to offer it to me. It just skips to the next available person. It's one of the advantages of queues over groups. Extensions, right? Groups can have multiple extension numbers if you want. This is what your staff would use typically to transfer calls to the right group. Groups can have their own phone numbers, right? So you can add from spare or buy new. And just like under users, a phone number added to a group is available 24/7, right? No hours of operation. Group features, ring back. So call comes into the group, right? Offer to your staff members. Their phones ring, right? That ringing sound is then piped back to the inbound caller, right? Ring back. If you don't want that ringing sound, then you would enable this feature, and then you would upload a media file, right? .wav, .mp3, up to 1 megabyte in size. Now, the system will not loop the file for you. So you want to make sure that the duration of that file matches or exceeds the total ring time you've put in the group. All right, so default is 2 minutes, so you want to make sure it's at least a 2-minute file. Next action, to me, the most important feature of a group is if no one's able to answer the call in your group, what do you want the system to do? Right, so you enable this feature, and in this pull down, you determine where the call goes. Right, could be to a voicemail box, could be to another group, could be to a specific user, specific device, or you can send it back to your main menu. Allow call forward. If you enable this, that means your users can make use of call forwarding. Right? If your staff has a cell phone number as part of their device mix, you don't need to have this enabled, right? Because we're already sending it to their cell phone. But if not, right, if you only have VoIP phones on the account, then this would be a viable feature to enable. Caller ID prepend. This is for VoIP phones. This allows you to add additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' phones. Right, so you can enter in the word support, for instance, that shows up on their staff member's VoIP phone, so they know, oh, this is a support call, right? So they know what kind of call it's about. I usually recommend doing one or the other, not both, as that's a lot of text or a lot of characters that show up on the VoIP phone. All right, so that's users and groups. So let's go to main number here on the left. So first up, you got your main company numbers, right? So you can always add from spare or buy new numbers here. And you can also unassign a number if you don't want to use it, right? So now I have 4. We have this little gear icon next to all phone numbers, right? This would also show up under the users and their groups. So you can update the caller ID for each number, right? So the outbound CNAME, and turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAME, right? So that people's names show up on your staff members' phones. E911, each phone number can have its own E911 address associated with it. This allows you to assign this information to your VoIP phones specifically, so that way you pick up a particular VoIP phone and they dial 911, right? The correct address gets transmitted to emergency services versus your company headquarters. You also have this prepend feature, which is a VoIP phone feature. Again, text will display on your staff members' phones or VoIP phones, letting them know what the kind of call is about. Office hour strategy, 24-hour open office, right? You're available 24/7. Custom office hours. That means for each day of the week, you put a check mark in front of the day that you're open. And then these boxes here to the right, you enter in your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Right? You don't have to make them all the same like I have here. Some days I'm open to 5:30, others I'm only open to 4 or 2 even. You also have the option at the bottom here to say you're closed for lunch at the same time every day that you're open. And again, you would set your lunch hours in that 24-hour or military time, and then click on Save Changes. Office holidays, if you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here, and then click on Add Holiday over here on the far right. You have your option here for single day, date range, or advanced, right? Each one would create a new row. Like if I do advanced here, or, oh, oops. All right, so single day, I have like here for Memorial Day. Actually, we can also do Christmas Day. That makes it better. So single day, right? Christmas Day, choose the month, choose the date, save changes. Likewise, we did here for Thanksgiving, although most people will probably do date range for Thanksgiving to include that Friday. Date range option here is holiday, right? Gave it a name, start date, end date, save changes. Advanced, as I have here for Memorial Day, where I gave it a name, I choose May. And then in the second pull down, you have 1st through 5th, as well as last, and then the day of the week, save changes. And if you want to get rid of a holiday, you just click on the little trash can icon here and then save changes. Incoming call handling. So for my main numbers, how do I want my system to handle calls during my open hours, during my after hours, and then during my holidays? All right, so open hours, I'm saying, hey, calls come in, they go to my virtual receptionist. This is a link that I can click on. Over here on the left, this is my main menu. This is what people press on their phone to navigate through my phone system. Down here, I can click on Add Route to have additional options. This first pull down, you have 0 through 9, the star key, and the default action. The second pull down are things that you have on your account already. Users, groups, call queues if you're making use of them, devices, you can even have a media file play, etc. They're all here in the scroll down, in the scroll drop down menu here. If you want to remove an option, you would click on the little X to the right. Over here on the right, greeting options. First up is text-to-speech. This allows you to type in a greeting. The system will lets you type or will play back or read it back via like a computerized robotic voice. You can enter up to 250 characters, not words. It doesn't count spaces though, so you have a little bit of leeway there. When you click update, the system names the file for you, right? In this case, it'd be my main open hours menu TTS, right? If it was after hours, it'd be main after hours menu TTS. If you come back and edit this, what it says here, you're gonna have two files with the same name, right? Main open hours menu TTS. So the TTS readings, they're fine when you're just getting started, right? Like you're a startup company or you're not used to PBX systems, or you're not even sure for sure yet how you want calls to route yet, or what options you want to give your customers. But if you make use of them, I recommend after you create one, on the left-hand side, we'll be covering the greetings tab shortly, and you want to find that file and rename it to something that you can recognize. So that way, if you need to switch it, it's easy for you to find. You can upload your own file, right? .wave.mp3 up to 1 MB in size. Just click on choose file to find the file, and then open, right? And then update, save, and save changes. Choose from an existing recording. This pull down shows all your media files, right? Hold music files, main greetings, voicemail greetings. So that's why you want names that you can recognize easily. You can record it over the phone. Now, when the system says pick up a phone registered to this account, it means a VoIP phone, right? Because that way it knows it's a part of the account, so it's safe for it to use. Now, if you want to use like a cell phone or landline, then what you would want to do is go down here under settings, and where it says allow outside of recording, you want to toggle this on, right? Save changes. So now you can call in from any phone number to change your main greeting over the phone. This PIN number here, right, specific to this account to this time of day, right? So it only works when my open hours, right? So if I called in on Saturday and tried to enter this PIN number, the system wouldn't let me. I would get an invalid entry message because I'm closed on Saturday and Sunday. Now, when you sign up with us, right, we put in a generic greeting. So when you can still call in and change your greeting over the phone, right? When the greeting plays, you enter in the PIN number. The system will switch into recording mode and walk you through how to record your greeting over the phone. The file name would stay the same. So whatever it's named in your system, that file name stays the same, but the content gets changed. So for like the holiday season, I usually recommend download your main greeting that you have normally. So you have a copy locally. And that way, if you get in a rush and have to change it over the phone, right, for the holiday season, that's fine because then you can upload your normal main greeting later for after the holidays. Professional recording services. When you click on order, this opens a new tab and takes you to Snap Recordings, where you can order a recording done by professional voice actors and actresses. They charge you directly your credit card and they email you the file. So then you would come here to upload your own file. All right, so settings, number of retries on missed dial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. Typically, we see people anywhere from 1 to 3 is typically fine. Now, your callers have one built-in attempt, right? So in this case, I'm adding 2 additional attempts, so 3 total attempts for the inbound caller to get a valid option. Dialing timeout, this is how much time the system listens for additional button press, right? So caller calls in and presses 7. Well, the system's going to wait, in this case, 10 seconds before it assumes they're done and then determine if it's a valid entry or not, right? I usually say you probably don't want to have this any larger than 5 if people are looking up an extension number. Allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on, and this just means if the customer or the inbound caller enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call to that extension. Right? If you turn it off, that means the inbound caller can only press the menu options. Right? If they enter an extension number, the system will treat it as an invalid option. And then we have the suppress the playing of invalid entry. So person calls into the system, right? And let's say they keep pressing 7, right? Not a valid menu option. After that final attempt, right? So they try it 3 different times. By default, the system will play a message saying, we did not recognize your entry. Now, if there's a default action in place, like I have right now, then the system will, after that saying we did not recognize your entry, it'll then say transferring your call and send them to this location. Right? Now, if I remove the default, right, the system would say we did not recognize your entry, goodbye, and end the call. Right? If you don't want those messages to play, right, like that we did not recognize your entry message, then you'd want to turn this on. Right? That turns on the suppression. Right. So any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings tab, or your settings, click on save here, and then make sure you click on save changes here. Right, so you're clicking save twice. For after hours, we'll use the second option here. This is the live operator answer option, where the point of this is to select like a user, a call queue, or a group, for instance. Right, you're giving someone an opportunity to answer the call first among your staff. Right, if they're not able to, then you're sending it to the virtual receptionist, where they would hear a greeting and they have many options. And then here for holidays, I'm using the third option where I'm basically, during my holidays, I'm sending calls straight to my main voicemail box. Now, this first pull down, I can send callers to a user, a group, right, a device. I can even send it to a media file to say, something about, hey, we're closed for the holiday. Right. The second pull down is any voicemail box on the account. All right, main conference number. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want, but they're going to the same set of conference rooms. The custom greeting allows you to enter in a text-to-speech greeting, right? Even if you left this disabled, when you call the conference number, it says welcome to the conference, and then prompts you to enter in the conference room number and PIN number. Main fax box number, you get a one main fax box number. Now, once you do, you can edit the fax box. The inbound notification email, this allows you to enter an email address, and that email gets notified every time a fax comes through, right? They get an email, says the date, the time, phone numbers involved, and a PDF attachment. Now, if someone dials your fax box number, right, here's fax tones and hangs up, this person still gets an email saying there was a failed inbound fax attempt. If the caller ID says wireless number, that lets you know this was a wrong number. But otherwise, you'd want to reach out to the person who's trying to fax to you and let them know it didn't get through. The email, permissions here, this allows you to put in your company's email domain here and allows you then to be able to send a fax out. Right? So anyone at VirtualPBX in this case, uh, they can send a fax out from this account, from this system or this account without actually being a user on the account, right? They just need that proper format, that +1 area code and phone number, and then they need the account realm, right? Then attach a PDF or TIFF. Right, auto attendance, plan specific feature. This allows you to create additional auto attendants. You would do this for if you want submenus, right? So one for English, two for Spanish. You would then create an English and Spanish auto attendant and have greetings in the appropriate language and then menu options going to people who speak the appropriate language. Or you would do this because you have multiple businesses, right? You want them on the same account, but obviously each business has its own phone numbers and own main greetings, but you have the same staff people answering calls for them. Up here at the top, you click on Add Auto Attendant. You need to give it a name and an extension number. Right? The extension number is not something your customers would necessarily know, but your staff members could use to transfer calls to the appropriate attendant. Once you've created an attendant, it looks like this. Right? It starts off as unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, i.e. a separate business. Right? If you click on this toggle, and now it says available in main menu, so now it becomes a menu option. Right? So it could be a virtual receptionist option. It can also be a next action option from your groups. Auto attendants can have their own phone numbers, right? So you can buy from new or add from spare. They can have multiple extension numbers if you want them to. Right? Just enter the new extension number. Then you got the little wrench icon here on the far right under settings. Right? The open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? This matches the times or dates that we set up under your main number. Right? So if you have an instance where some businesses are open 24/7 and others are Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, you want to talk to our account services team to find out what is best for you. Because it's possible you could have them still on the same account, just some custom call work done, or it may be make more sense to have two separate accounts or multiple accounts. But beyond that, this is only going to virtual receptionist options for after hours and holidays, etc. The devices tab shows your devices on the account. Green means it's registered, right? So we can send a call to it and someone should have a chance to pick up and answer the call. Red, unregistered, so we can't send calls to it. And then anything that's black would be disabled here under this third column. Now, you can always add devices here, but you can't assign them to a user here. The big one that comes up is people often try to add a soft phone directly here on the devices tab, which is fine if they're making use of a third-party soft phone, but down here, there's no option to say use VirtualPBX application because you have to do that on the users. The wrench icon here under edit, right? So advanced audio for physical devices, right? Whether it's a soft phone that you're using to program a physical device or an actual physical device. The codecs you want to use are G711U and G711A. Right? You can click and drag the relevant codecs over. Emergency caller ID, right? This allows you to select any number on your account. And if it has an address associated, it then show up here. So that way, if someone picks up this phone and dials 911, this is the address that gets transmitted to emergency services. And the external caller ID, you can choose a specific phone number on your account that shows up as the outbound caller ID for this phone only, or any number of phones. Greetings tab, included feature, shows all your media files on the account, right? So main greetings, voicemail greetings, hold music, right? Got the name of the file. Then you have the source, right? TTS, text to speech. Right? Upload means the file is uploaded. Recording means it was recorded over the phone. This column here allows you to play back the greeting directly in your browser. If for some reason that doesn't work, you can also, over here on the right, download the file, right, which is what I mentioned to do for your normal main greeting. You'd want to download that so you have a local copy, or even just reload it here as a backup copy. Under Edit, we have a little wrench icon here. So here you can change the name of the file. You can also get rid of a greeting that you don't need. Right? If you change the name, click on Save Changes. Numbers, this takes you to your numbers in use, right? So you can see where your numbers are assigned. You've got the gear icon here, so you can update the caller ID, E911, or prepend. You cannot unassign a number here or assign a number here. It just shows you where they're at. The spare number tab shows you the numbers you're not currently using. If you want to get rid of a number, you want to put a check mark in front of the number. And then you have this option to delete show up here at the top. So you would click on that, confirm deletion, and now the numbers are removed from my account. Right, buying numbers would be adding new spare numbers to your account. So that way you would be using them later. Port starts the porting process. That is simply moving in one number or a number from one carrier to another, right? So say from AT&T to VirtualPBX, give it a name, I choose local or toll free, enter next, upload a recent PDF copy of your bill. There's a form to fill out where it asks you for your address information, company information. That should match what your current carrier has on file. It will ask you for the BTN, which is the billing telephone number. If you're only porting one number, the number you're porting is your BTN. If you have multiple numbers you're porting, you want to double check with your carrier. There's also an option to enter a PIN number, right? Some carriers require a PIN number in order to port out. This is especially true of mobile phone carriers. If you're porting a cell phone number into us, just be aware of that. Once that port completes, the cell phone that's associated with that phone number will no longer work, right, as a cell phone until you get a new number from your provider. Later in the process, there's an option to download a blank LOA or letter of agency that should be filled out and signed, right? Digital signature is fine, or you can print it out and sign it manually. And then basically after you submit, you'll get an automated email saying you submitted your port request. You should get another email from our porting team, usually within the next business day, letting you know that an actual person has looked at the documents and that we submitted the report request. If there's any kind of problem with the port request, like we get a rejection, right? We double check to make sure there wasn't a typo or alternate information we could use. Once we've exhausted all of that, then we'll reach out to you, let you know, hey, the request got rejected for this reason. Generally speaking, toll-free numbers take about a week to port, right? 3 to 5 business days. Local numbers average 2 to 3 weeks. Right. Voicemail boxes shows all the voicemail boxes on the account. Anything with an entry here under the user column, that means that was a voicemail box that was created with the user. You can create new voicemail boxes up here at the top for like use with your groups, for example. Just give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. Click on Create Voicemail Box. So the voicemail box number and the PIN number, that's what you would use to check voicemails over the phone or even change the greeting over the phone. Under Advanced Greeting Media, you can upload your own media files here. Right, .wav, .mp3, record up to 1 megabyte. The pull down will allow you to select any voicemail boxes directly, or any media files directly to the voicemail box. If you have something selected under media and temporary, only the temporary file plays. Right, the media file will not play again until you set temporary back to none. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes have one built-in recipient, right? The email address used for login. You can add additional recipients to any voicemail box by clicking here where it says add new recipient, and then enter the email address of the people or person, right? Keep clicking add until you're done adding people, and then click on save changes. And then options. So once you have a media file in place and recipients in place, you can click on already set up, so that way it won't get changed on you. Here's your option to delete the messages after notification has been sent out. And then here's the option to attach messages to email. So like this is my support voicemail box, so I don't want it to get full, which is why I have the delete after notification checked there. Virtual text forward. This allows you to have a number accept inbound text messages. It is not for two-way communication. You would click on add number, choose a phone number on your account, and enter either an email address or a webhook, right? Email address is the most commonly used. Webhook would be if you're linking this to another piece of software. Generally speaking, that means you'd have to have webhooks enabled on your account, so you'd need to speak to our account services team. But you would click on create text forward. So if anyone texts these numbers, then these email addresses get a notification, hey, you have a new text, and has the information about that text sent to them. Call logs, this shows your call history on the account. You can go by the current day, the current week, the current month. You can also do custom to change the date range, right? So I could change it to October, for instance. The green arrow to the right is a call coming into the system. A yellow arrow to the left is a call going out from the system. Let's see if we can. So here you see a call has several legs. So this first leg is always the call coming into the system. All right, these other two legs are calls going out from the system to the devices, right? So here going to this web phone and here going to the soft phone. And the normal clearing one tells me that's the device that was picked up, right? Right, lose race also would indicate that they didn't pick up on this device. Little fire extinguisher icon here will report the call, right? It automatically creates an email for you to address to support@virtualpbx.com. It has the technical details of the call. Please include why you're sending an email. Sometimes we're not going to understand just from the technical details why you're sending the call to us. You also have the option here to download these files. It's a CSV file, so if you're good with spreadsheets, you'll be able to get some more information out of the call logs. The system will let you go back up to 12 months. If you need to go further, you can contact our support team and we can send an escalation up to our engineers. They can only go back up to 18 months though. Anything further than that, the data will not be recoverable. So if you need your call log information for some sort of compliance reasons, you'd want to do this on a monthly basis. Feature codes. These are ways for your VoIP phone users to directly access Dash features directly from their VoIP phone. This is a page on our support pages. There's also on the support pages the phone command cheat sheet, which has the context help as well as the feature codes. So that's the dashboard. Under blacklists, this is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you don't want to reach your staff members. You would click edit blacklist over here on the right and click add to create a new list, or in this case, I'm just going to use an existing list. You need to give it a name, and then you need to choose, are you going to block anonymous calls or not, right? Anonymous call means we're not getting valid inbound caller ID. So if it's off, that means those calls are getting through, right? If I turn it on, that means they get blocked. Beyond that, I would click on add number. I put +1 area code and number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. And what happens is if these people try to call in, right, it'll show up in your call log, but they're just going to get a busy tone, right? They're not going to be able to reach a staff member. When you're done, right, click on save, click back to settings up here at the top right. Make sure your list is on the right-hand side under selected, right? So you might have to click and drag to get it over, and then click update. Even if the list is already on the right-hand side, make sure you click update. Right, call recording. If you're using normal or non-AWS call recording, right, this will open up a new tab and take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. Uses your dash login where you can view your recordings, play them back, download them, etc. If you're using AWS, it will take you to show you what's in the AWS interface, so you can play back the calls or download them. If you actually want to delete them, you actually have to log into your AWS account. Monitor is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your staff. Right, so you can see all the employees or the specific devices. You can see all who's available, who's busy. Active inbound calls, each one would have its own individual box and who they're speaking to. If a call's been parked, it will show the caller ID and the parking spot number. Reports, this is advanced reporting. So this is a plan-specific feature. This opens up a new tab and takes you to reports.virtualpbx.com, has its own login. In the show notes, you want to look at the advanced reporting demo to see what can be done, but basically allows you to create your own reports. Voicemails, this is an included feature. This lets you get to any voicemail box on the account. So you can see, so you can check a full voicemail box, right? You can play back the message, you can download it. If you put a check mark in front of it, you can move a voicemail to a different voicemail box or change its status. Integration AWS, plan-specific feature. This just shows you that you have it enabled. When you click on the settings icon here, the access key, secret access key, and the bucket you would have to get from AWS. And there is in the support pages, there's a guide on terms of what to do on the AWS site. Oops. Next up, call center. This is an upgrade feature off of existing plans, right? Call queues. Or, if you ever called your bank and been told, your call will be answered by the next available agent, right? You've entered a call queue. This opens up a new tab, takes you to callcenter.virtualpbx.com, uses your dash login. Call queues are an advanced version of groups, right? You have different kind of routing options, right? You can do like most idle, right? Who's been waiting the longest, or round robin to equalize that over time. People assigned to queues can log themselves in and out of the queue, right? They can mark themselves away. Managers can eavesdrop in on a call, whisper to their staff member, or barge in as well. Dynamic call, show notes, the ACDQ's promo. Dynamic caller ID, this is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. So this first one here, I labeled it Vegas. I chose a 702 number. And I basically said this, right? Where whenever my staff members dial 702, a 702 area code phone number, the system will automatically change the outbound caller ID to the 702 number I designated, right? So it looks like a local call. The other option here is I can create a feature code, in this case, *951. So my staff members have to dial *951, then enter the area code and phone number they're reaching out to, and then the system will change their outbound caller ID to the number I selected. Faxes is your fax manager, right? So you can see the inbound faxes that come into your system, right? The date, the time, phone numbers involved. You can download the documents. The outbound fax tab, right, shows your faxes on the account. If you mouse over where it says failed, it will tell you what happened here. In this case, this tells me it was an actual valid phone number, but there was no fax tones, right? So we may have gotten the wrong number, right? Email to fax log. If you have any data here, this means we had a problem. The system had a problem processing the request, right? It will show you like the to email and the from email, so you can make sure those in the proper format. Over on the far right, there would be a little eyeball icon, and that would show you what error, right? So you could have things like no valid attachments, and that would be because someone didn't include a PDF or TIFF file. Number Manager takes you to your spare numbers page. Webhooks, plan-specific feature. This allows you to link your Dash account to other software. This is actually some level of programming. You can go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we've done to link Dash to other software. Also in the show notes, you can click on the Introduction to Zapier webinar, which also covers some of webhooks. You'd want to speak to our sales team if you want more information about that. SMS registration. This is what you would need to go through to make use of texting on the account. Again, if you just signed up with us and you want to make use of SMS, you're going to want to talk to our account services team. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user has access to their own user portal, right? It defaults you to the user's voicemail, right? So they can listen to their voicemails, they can download them, put a check mark here to change the status. Their call history tab lets them view their call history, and they can see change the date range to go further back. The fax tab only works for users that have their own fax box, but they can see their fax history. The contact list shows everything on the Dash account, right? So they can see other users' extension numbers, the feature codes, etc. Right? It's not something they can add to on their own, right? So I couldn't add like my sales leads into this. The conference tab, this is for users that have a conference bridge enabled. Here's where they would update the moderator pin and then the participant pin number. They should be different. Then you have the option here, are do people join muted or deafened? And do they play entry and exit tones? While in a conference, they can come to this page, invite other Dash users to the conference, lock the conference so no one else can join, mute everybody, unmute everybody, end the conference call. Each moderator and participant would have their own little box, so you can actually mute a specific person or even kick out a specific person. The Settings and Devices tab right here is where your staff members can enable call forwarding on their own. Put a little check mark here, +1 area code and phone number, and then click on Save, and now I'm forwarding. Right? Uncheck it, save again, now I'm not forwarding. And that is everything. I haven't seen any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today. And for those of you in the United States, I wish you a happy Thanksgiving.